Hey guys, sorry for the moderate break I took from making videos. I was busy looking for a job. Please hire me. And I've been spending the past few days catching up on the new Filipino releases at this year's World Premiers Film Festival 2016, now on its third year. This festival started last June 29 on Thursday, I believe, and it's gonna run up to July 10 next Sunday, so you have a lot of time to catch what they're offering, and they're offering quite a lot. They have a lot of different sections out there, and I really wish I could watch everything, but I can't, obviously, so I decided to just watch the new Filipino movies that are coming out. So there are 6 at the Filipino New Cinema section, and there's 1 at the main competition section. And if you're worried that you won't be able to find these movies to watch them, you can just check their website, check their Facebook page, or check the movie schedules at SM Megamall, SM North EDSA, Shangri-La, Greenbelt, Uptown Cinemas, and Cinematheque. So this is my first time watching movies from the WPFF, and unfortunately I didn't really have high expectations going into it because I didn't hear good things about the festival last year. And unfortunately for these first 4 movies I'm going to talk about, it's still kind of like that. These movies just aren't really that good. First of all, let's talk about Memory Channel, written and directed by Rainier Brizuela, starring Gerald Santos, Epi Quizon, Boji Pascua, and Michelle Vito. And I'm going to read the synopsis from the guide they gave me at the premiere. So the synopsis to Memory Channel reads, "A singer with retrograde amnesia takes measures to rid himself of his panic attacks and resolve his turbulent, mysterious past." And I'm sorry, but I thought Memory Channel was really bad. My main issue with the movie was the fact that from the very beginning, from the opening frame, they set this movie up as, something that's about anxiety and about living with anxiety, about overcoming anxiety, but the plot throughout the rest of the movie takes so many twists and turns that are so unnecessary and so unintentionally funny that they end up in such a different place from where they began, and it doesn't help them give any insight to the issue. The characters are just completely empty. There's too much style in this movie, not enough substance, not enough dedication to its central issue. The editing is weird because it jumps abruptly from one place to another, but at the same time the movie feels way too long, and this movie is only 74 minutes long, and it's the longest hour and 14 minutes you'll ever sit through. And unfortunately every actor in this cast, including the great Epi Quizon, is mailing it in or just not good enough to elevate the material. And I also don't really like how the movie looked visually, and there's a lot of blurry backgrounds and close-ups and whatnot, and the argument could be made that it looks like this because it's meant to reflect the protagonist's state of mind, but I don't think the movie earns that. But the one thing I will say that I quite liked in Memory Channel was the soundtrack. The music was really cool because it was really offbeat, so it ended up being kind of funny and eerie at the same time, which is a tonal achievement that the rest of the movie didn't have. On to the next movie, because I want to keep these reviews short. We have EDSA, written and directed by Alvin Yapan, starring a huge ensemble cast including Aldra Abrenica, Chris Bernal, Alan Dizon, Simone Ibarra, Hayden Ko, John Manalo, Sue Prado, lots of other people. And the synopsis reads, 3 stories ask, what matters most, the collective or the individual's gain, as experiences both terrible and wonderful spring and gather in Manila's busiest highway. Now, of these first 4 movies, EDSA is the strongest among all of them, although it's not particularly very good in my opinion. The fear I had going into this movie was the fact that, with such a big ensemble cast, I was afraid it would be really unfocused and uneven, but surprisingly this movie is very well balanced thanks to some good editing, which really helps keep the film feeling lean at just 76 minutes, but it's not too short because all the actors get a chance to shine. And this really is a really good, strong ensemble cast because no one ever upstages anyone else, and everyone is acting in the same naturalistic way. My favorite of whom is definitely John Manalo, who is super charismatic and he's just so fun to watch when he's on screen. And it's a credit to Alvin Yapan for taking this very naturalistic approach to this story instead of taking like a big epic approach or anything. There's even a little bit of magic realism sprinkled in there. But one of my other fears going into this movie was the fact that, they filmed this on EDSA, which means I was afraid that, their audio quality, their video quality would just be destroyed. But all things considered, this is actually a pretty good looking and good sounding movie. As for things I didn't really like about EDSA, first of all, a lot of the dialogue here is just so on the nose, and there's no subtlety to it whatsoever, especially when talking about certain issues like the whole K-12 thing. And like I said, I really like Alvin Yapan's naturalistic direction, so there are certain scenes that when he deviates away from that style, the movie feels kind of off. And some characters just really aren't believable at all, especially Hayden Ko's character. I didn't believe him for a second, and his performance was definitely the weakest in the cast. Next up, we have Cote, written and directed by Ronaldo M. Bertubin, starring Johan Santos, Mariel Ferris, Maya Samson, Adrian Ramirez, and Nico Gomez. And the synopsis reads, Emong, production assistant, and Kote to Lenlen, a sweet girl with Down syndrome, only have each other as they face a world driven to beat them both down. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything, I thought Kote was terrible. I'm sorry. It was one of the worst movies of the year. First of all, Kote is just unbelievably boring, and the problem is it's not supposed to be, I think, because it's a movie about Down syndrome, about teen pregnancy, about gay relationships, but it doesn't know how to handle any of these issues, so it ends up just making them really, really sad. It's just sadness porn, because all we see in this movie are scenes of people just, really dour and in anguish, being subjected to physical violence and sexual abuse. The worst thing is, because these characters are just subjected to all this abuse throughout the movie, it ends up feeling like the characters are defined solely by their abuse, which is so problematic. And this isn't just a slow movie, the pacing is glacial, and I never use that phrase ever. Conversations go on for an absolute eternity, but weirdly enough, the editing also makes the passage of time in the movie really, really strange. The direction is flat throughout, we never get a sense of us like really being there with the characters, there's nothing really interesting to look at. Visually it's shoddy, the audio is bad, and the acting, or rather the overacting, is just so intense. And here's the thing, before you tell me that I am insulting the subject matter of people with Down syndrome because I'm hating on this movie, I think it's more insulting to give them a free pass just because they have Down syndrome. So, I think it's better to acknowledge the fact that people with Down syndrome deserve better movies than this. Di ako hater, okay? This movie that came out in Cine Filipino just this year, starring na si Van Damme Stallone, was also about Down syndrome, and I really like that. And finally, we have the one Filipino film that was included in the main competition, and that is Daughters of the Three-Tailed Banner, written and directed by Gutierrez Mansacan II, and starring Fe Gingging Hyde, Evelyn Vargas, Heidi Sangkad, and Sue Prado. And the synopsis reads, a look into the lives of a family after their last male member dies. The women do what they can to continue their lineage and future despite the hardships they face as a matriarchy in shambles. And this was kind of a weird movie for me because I liked approximately half of it. I guess my main issue with this film is that it's only 80 minutes long, which forces the movie to rush to conclusions after a really, really long setup. But this movie does tell two stories. The first one I will refer to as the village stuff, and the second one the hotel stuff. Visually and in terms of audio, I liked the village stuff. I thought that was really cool, but the hotel stuff was kind of boring. The direction in the hotel stuff is also kind of uninteresting and flat, but the direction in the village stuff is surprisingly creative. He really ends up masking the technical limitations of the movie by doing things creatively. However, the actors in the village parts, I just thought were too over the top or not expressive enough. But the actors in the hotel stuff were really good, especially Fe Gingging Hyde, who is so good and just overqualified for this stuff. I also really like the writing in the hotel stuff because there was more implied than actually said, so there's a bit of mystery. But I didn't like the writing in the village parts because I thought there was too much exposition and people saying exactly what's on their mind. So yeah, it's really weird. This movie bounces back and forth, but I did like how the movie bounced back and forth. It is well edited, it is well balanced. So yeah, those are my very brief reviews for the first 4 movies at the World Premiers Film Festival that I saw. Just to recap, Memory Channel I thought was really bad, I'm sorry. EDSA was okay. Kote was terrible, I'm sorry again. And Daughters of the Three-Tailed Banner was just kind of mediocre for me, just not my cup of tea. Alright, so those are my thoughts on these 4 movies at the World Premiers Film Festival. Have you guys seen them? What do you think about them? Whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.